You lie down expecting quiet, but inside your skull a massive pump turns on. The space between neurons swells 30% wider overnight, creating room for fluid to flood the tissue and wash away the sticky metabolic waste you produce just by thinking. Think of it like an underground tunnel system, clearing clogged pipes while traffic stops running. But here, the dirt is proteins that damage cells if they stay too long. The flow depends on specific water channels lining every neuron, called aquaporins, to let the liquid rush in only when dreamless sleep arrives. If these channels fail, your brain never truly washes clean. You might sleep for hours, but you still wake up heavy with fatigue because the plumbing never opened wide enough. Does your actual rest style enable this flush, or merely close the door on a critical housekeeping shift? The answer lies deep in the architecture of those walls themselves. You might think consciousness turns off, but the hardware stays active. During these slow-wave cycles, astrocyte cells align water channels called aquaporins perfectly against blood vessels. Imagine lining up microscopic gates so fluid can wash through tissue while you rest without dreams. This specific clearance removes toxic buildup only when the brain is truly offline. However, if alignment shifts during lighter sleep stages, waste simply isn't pushed out. We discovered this in paravascular pathways that function like rivers carrying debris away. If deep sleep is fragmented, those gates never seal properly for the next stage. It implies you aren't just resting, but failing to clear physical mess inside your skull before work begins. There is another signal waiting to fire in the dark.
But how does this mess leave if the pipes are tight? Think of your brain like a crowded subway car, packed solid until deep sleep hits. During stage 3 slow-wave sleep, something magical happens. Astrocytes shrink and water channels align perfectly along blood vessels. This creates a high-speed highway for fluid to surge through, flushing out the day's metabolic waste like a pressure valve releasing steam. It is an active cleaning event, not a passive nap. Yet the real mystery lies in why that switch flips only when you are unconscious. Our data shows one single molecule governs this alignment, and its absence means permanent fog. This mechanism relies entirely on specific electrical silence to function properly. But what happens if that silence breaks before you even wake up?
That silence is actually the engine room where fluid dynamics take over. Your brain does not just sit in darkness. It actively pumps waste out like a tide pulling back from a shore to reveal the sand below. Specific gates inside cells that act like specialized valves align perfectly during deepest rest, allowing water to flood into tissues that usually repel it. This isn't passive leaking, but an active pumping process driven by cellular swelling and contraction. The physical architecture expands to make room for this transport while you are unaware of the mechanism happening. But this expansion has a strict limit. We observe distinct patterns in electrical spindles that only appear when clearance actually optimizes. If those signals fade, the floodgates close too early. How much toxicity accumulates before we can catch it?
So the answer lies in precise timing. Think of your skull like a sealed pressure chamber, where fluid exchange only opens when valves click into place. These specific gates are lined with special proteins acting as water pumps, aligning precisely when your brain enters its slowest phase. If you drift straight to light sleep without hitting this deep window, those pumps never engage, and waste simply sits there waiting to cause harm. We are tracking the exact moment these channels align with blood flow velocity to move debris out. That is where the evidence points toward a distinct signal hidden within brainwave patterns. What if we can read that specific rhythm on a simple headset instead of relying on hospital machines?
That rhythm isn't just sound. It drives a physical pump inside your skull. When deep sleep hits, astrocytes expand like breathing bellows around neurons. This opens gates called AQP4 water channels. Think of it as a high-speed vacuum cleaner sucking toxins out along the veins of your arteries. The brain literally washes itself during rest. If that rhythm stutters, you feel the hangover effect even after 8 hours of sleep. Chronic fog isn't just laziness, it is broken plumbing in the mind. We need to understand how to keep that pump running without drugs. But there is a catch. This cleaning cycle only works if one specific condition is met before you even close your eyes.
That condition isn't about duration, it's about architecture. Think of your brain tissue as a dense sponge that can only drink if the straws are pointing outward. Deep inside, astrocyte cells adjust their shape to align aquaporin 4 channels like microscopic pipes facing the fluid flow. This structural shift creates a high-speed highway for cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the waste-laden streets of your neurons. If these gates remain misaligned, your brain effectively blocks its own cleanup crew during rest. You spend time in bed without actually resetting the system because the plumbing is shut off at the molecular level. Yet this deep cleaning isn't the only function the architecture serves across the night cycle.
Yet, if we consider that architecture, those water channels don't just sit still. They actually shift their alignment depending on the hour of the night. During deep, slow wave sleep, astrocytes open wide like gates, allowing fluid to flood into tissue to scrub debris. Then during REM, they flip the switch, acting almost like a security system, locking down for transmission. Specific calcium waves move through these cells to coordinate data without letting waste back into the active network. Think of your neural architecture as a city with separate highways for traffic and waste disposal. We are learning we don't sleep just to rest, but to physically reorganize connections. If the signal gets blocked between those stages, you wake up physically tired but mentally empty. Now look closely at what happens right at that transition point, where the brain decides when to switch from cleaning mode to thinking mode.
So, at that exact moment of transition, glial cells adjust their water channels to stop flushing toxins and start wiring synapses for learning. It is not just rest, but an architectural reset. When astrocytes shift their aquaporins, they seal off the drainage pipes so memory consolidation can begin without interference. This is why you wake up refreshed if you hit deep, slow-wave sleep, but drained otherwise. You cannot force this biology with caffeine or willpower alone. To get better clearance, optimize your time in stage 3 before bed. The science maps how you spend those hours directly to mental clarity tomorrow. If you track delta power and spindle patterns, you can validate the cleaning without drugs. Stop guessing if you slept well and start trusting your architecture instead. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.